Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. To warm you up, let's start our video with a funny story about one rash act by some teenagers in the time before the internet and cell phones existed. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Yeah, Dad, that would be very funny. Quick background information. I grew up in small-town rural America. My town had its own well-read daily newspaper with a staff photographer who's somewhat of a local celebrity. This is important later in the story. As a lifelong horticulturist, my father was strongly in favor of live plants in a home's landscaping and loathed manufactured lawn ornaments of any variety. When I was a teenager, a very popular lawn ornament came into fashion in our area known as lawn sheep. Basically, it was a piece of plywood cut into the shape of a sheep, covered with black, white, or brown faux wool, along with other accessories that made them look like sheep. They had stakes on the feet so you could put them in the ground to stand upright. There were different sizes too, so people created little sheep families in their front yards. My dad hated the lawn sheep and often had snide comments when he saw them. My older brother and I were in the car with Mom and Dad one day, and we passed a football practice field, known to all of us as the East Field, that's in a small valley, and very viewable from two busy streets. My dad pipes up from the driver's seat, "Wouldn't it be funny if someone gathered up all the lawn sheep in town and put them down on the East Field, like they were grazing?" My brother and I locked eyes in the back seat and replied, "Yes, Dad, that would be very funny." Soon thereafter, my parents went out of town for a weekend, leaving my brother and I alone. On a Friday morning, we agreed that it was time to hatch our dad-inspired plan. I recruited another friend, and we spent the day driving around town, writing down the addresses of houses with lawn sheep in the front yard. We'd record how many sheep, the colors and sizes, then we went home and created address tags for each of the sheep so the homeowners could get their sheep back after we rustled them. Around 11 that night, we began driving to each of the addresses we'd written down. My brother drove the van, and my friend and I would run up, snatch the sheep, run back, and throw them in the van. While driving to the next house, we'd affix the address tags with packing tape. We'd scoped out well over 100 lawn sheep earlier in the day, but by 1:30 a.m., we'd only gathered 35. We decided that was enough, parked near the end of the field, and ran with as many sheep as we could carry at a time and planted them in a random group in the middle of the field. We returned home, looked up the phone number of the newspaper staff photographer, and called his house at 2 a.m. Mind you, this was in the pre-cell phone / pre-internet days, even before caller ID was a thing. When he answered the phone, I told him, "Report to the East Field with your camera at daybreak. There's a picture waiting for you." "What do we have there?" he asked. "Sheep grazing," I replied, then quickly hung up. Edit. Forgot to mention that I personally took total responsibility when being questioned by authorities. They knew it wasn't a one-man job, but I was the only one of the three who was under 18. I refused to name my brother and friend. And our second story. Entitled neighbor claiming public parking spot is only for him. In the area of the city where I live, there are some row houses and a couple of big house blocks. Some of the row houses have their own private parking spot directly in front of their house entrance, but obviously separated from the street / public area. For the rest of the people living in the big apartment complexes, there are some parking lanes as well as some turnouts, all directly connected to the street and pedestrian walk, so they're public. Now, I have this particular neighbor to live in the building next to mine, think on the 6th floor. I know him from some owners' meetings as this two buildings belong together and he owns an apartment in that building. He's somewhere in his 50th. I don't know what work he does, but he's at home most of the time. His car is a dark blue metallic Audi A6, which he rarely drives. Most of the time, his car is standing in the turnout parking spot directly connected to the pedestrian walk closest to the entrances of our buildings. Well, last Saturday, an old friend of mine came by to help me moving out of our old living room furniture and build up the new ones. Also, some of the old stuff was still in great shape, so my friend wanted to keep some of that. No problem, take what you want. When he came, the parking spot directly left, closest to the entrance, was free. Great, no need to carry the stuff far. We're happy. So we bring the stuff he wanted to keep in his car, and we went back inside and start work on the new furniture. After like 4 hours, we're done and we want to quickly grab something to eat before he drives home. The installation took more time as we expected. We go outside, find a friendly note behind the windscreen in blue metallic Audi A6 parked behind of Buddy's car about 2 inches distance and half on the street, as this is a turnout parking directly connected to the street. It reads, "To the idiot who blocks my spot, ring my bell, house 25, 6th floor. Next time I'll have your car towed. You are not allowed to use my spot." We look at each other like, is this guy serious? This is public parking. So we go and ring his bell. It takes some time for him to answer. Friend: "Yeah, you parked behind my car. Please move it. I want to drive home." Entitled neighbor: "About time. Wait, I'll come." He came down, already shaking his arms when coming to open the door, and directly starts yelling, Entitled neighbor: "You can't park in my spot. Never park here again, or your car is gone." Friend: "That's actually a public parking spot. Anyone can park there." "No, it's my spot. I always use that spot. Everyone knows that's my spot." "That doesn't make it yours." "Yes, it does. I always use it. So by customary right, it belongs to me." "Man, this is city property. Only for often using it, it does not become yours." "This is my spot. Everyone knows that. Only I park here. Park here again and I'll have your car towed." Good luck on that. Public parking spot parked perfectly within lines, while your car's actually parked half in the street and blocking traffic. So actually your car is going to be towed. Oh, he didn't like that. He made the move like he wanted to throw a punch, but decided otherwise, as meanwhile, due to his screaming, there were a couple of people watching the scene. So he steps in his car and moves it to the side, making some rude gestures towards us. After that, he started to place a box on the parking spot when he left. Please start moving the box, even if you don't use the spot. And our last story. Let me go? Fine. You'll lose millions. This was around 10 years ago. I've always been very technical-minded and was able to read blueprints, construct complex devices, weld, MIG, TIG, stick, certified in fact, among other things. I took a high-paying job with a company that made several things for railroads. The job entailed most of my skills I mentioned above. It was a very small department. In fact, there were only 2 to 3 of us, but we all got along great and challenged each other, which led to higher production. Sadly, the one other guy in my department left for a better job, which left me by myself. My supervisor was great as well, liked to joke around with me, left me alone to focus on my work, and had my back when I needed him. We actually assembled signal enclosures and mast and ladder houses for railroads. Fast forward 3 years later, and the owners buy a much bigger location and move the whole company. As you might expect, several departments get shuffled. Yep, my department gets folded into a completely different department that has no clue what I do. At first it was fine, but it starts to go pear-shaped pretty quickly. My new supervisor seemed good at first, but I quickly realized he's a snake in the grass. For example, I had to help the prototype department assemble a new, lighter type of mast and ladder house, so I'm printing out issues and suggesting fixes, etc. New supervisor is not happy. He keeps coming over, huffing, groaning under his breath, standing over my shoulder, etc. He finally interrupts and asks in an angry voice, "How much longer will this take?" I respond, "I have 4 more hours today and 8 hours every day after that." He looks puzzled, so I explain, "This is my department. This is where I work. These are my responsibilities. So if it takes 2 months, that's how long it takes." Almost as if to get the last word in, he says, "You work where and when I tell you." And storms off. Next day, I'm called into the office and they force me to sign a letter that states, "I now work in my new supervisor's department." Fine by me. I watch from a distance in my new department as the stock, hardware, parts, orders, etc. of my old department begin to rack up. And since I'm the only one that works in that department, or rather used to work in that department, LOL, nobody's doing a thing about it. After about 2 weeks, my old department is a disaster, with items being thrown wherever it would fit. Orders had began to miss deadlines and higher-ups wanted answers. Sure enough, I get called into the office where the new supervisor blames me for everything, but wouldn't let me get a word in. Of course, they let me go without any reason or paperwork. The look of relief on my new ex-supervisor's face when I walked out was priceless. He had no clue what was coming. I leave with a smile plastered on my face because I knew something they didn't. I was the only one that knew how to build the mast and ladder structures. I relaxed at home for around 2 weeks because I knew I'd be getting a call from them. I ignored the first dozen calls, then I answer. Can you come back and build, train new hires, etc. for your department? Sure, I say, for $20,000. Now that may seem like a lot, but it wasn't. They made millions from these, so there was really only one option. Pay me $20K or lose millions. Long story short, they went back and forth with me, but finally conceded. I received $20K for 2 days' work and they were helpless. The cherry on top was my new ex-supervisor was fired for being a nitwit and costing the company $20,000. Edit. Some further information. I didn't want to work for them again. It potentially would have been a situation they used my knowledge and training of the new staff only to terminate me for some made-up reason, which I understand nobody wants a disgruntled employee. Why $20K? I bounced around on numerous figures, but when it came time to say a number over the phone, $20,000 was the number that came out. No real thought. Could I have gotten more? Yes, I think so. But it paid my bills, spent some little vacation, and gave me time to be picky about my next job. Did I get another job? Yes. This story demonstrates again that loyalty is a one-way street in most employment situations. In my experience, management sells the idea that we're a team or family, but the reality is they use workers up, then kick them to the curb or into the street. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.